If you think monsters always had claws, fangs, or glowing eyes, you've already missed the most unsettling truth of all. Some of the creatures that haunted ancient myths didn't crawl out of the dark or descend from the sky. They walked upright. They used tools. They looked back at us with eyes disturbingly familiar. Across the world, ancient stories speak of wild men, forest people, giants, little folk, cave dwellers, and beings that were almost human, but not quite. For centuries, these tales were dismissed as superstition, but archaeology, genetics, and fossil evidence are now revealing something deeply uncomfortable. Many of these humanoid monsters weren't imaginary at all. They were real. They lived beside us. Some even shared our blood. Tonight, we're counting down 12 mythical humanoid creatures that really existed. This isn't a list of legends fading into fantasy. It's a descent into our own forgotten family tree. And by the time we reach number 1, the question won't be whether these beings were real, but whether we were ever as different from them as we like to believe. We begin at number 12 with the creatures that may have inspired more wild man legends than any other. Neanderthals were not the brutish cavemen they were once portrayed as. They were powerful, yes, with stocky bodies, heavy brows, and muscles built for survival in brutal Ice Age climates. But they were also intelligent. They made tools. They cared for the injured. They buried their dead. And most unsettling of all, they interbred with modern humans. Imagine an early Homo sapiens group encountering Neanderthals in the forest or at the edge of firelight. Similar faces, similar voices, similar gestures, but different posture, different strength, different ways of living. These encounters wouldn't have felt like meeting an animal. They would have felt like meeting something uncanny, something human, but wrong. Legends of night people, wild men, and underworld humans may not describe monsters at all. They may describe neighbors, rivals, relatives, and the mystery remains unresolved. How different were Neanderthals culturally when no modern human was watching? At number 11, the mystery deepens, because here we have almost no face to imagine at all. Denisovans are known almost entirely through DNA. A finger bone, a tooth, genetic traces left behind in modern populations across Asia and Oceania. Yet their genetic impact is undeniable. Some modern humans carry Denisovan genes that affect altitude tolerance and immune response. Ancient myths often speak of hidden mountain people, beings who lived in remote, unreachable places, rarely seen but deeply feared or respected. Denisovans fit that pattern perfectly. They lived in isolated regions. They left few physical remains, but they were there. To ancient humans, Denisovans may have been ghosts of the mountains, shadows glimpsed once and never again. The final mystery is profound. What did they actually look like? At number 10, myth and archaeology align almost perfectly. Across Indonesia, legends tell of small forest people, mischievous, elusive, human-like, but child-sized. For generations, these stories were dismissed. Then scientists uncovered Homo floresiensis, adult humans under 4 feet tall, proportioned differently, using tools, hunting animals, living until surprisingly recent times. Island dwarfism explains their size, but not the legends that mirror them so closely. These weren't fairy creatures. They were another kind of human. Imagine encountering them at night, moving silently through the forest, watching from behind trees. Stories didn't exaggerate them. They remembered them, and the unanswered question still lingers. Did they survive longer than science currently believes? At number 9, we descend underground. Some myths speak of cave people, underworld humans who lived beneath the surface, hidden from the sun. These stories may trace back to Homo naledi. This species deliberately placed their dead deep inside cave systems, not near entrances, not by accident, deep in darkness, far from daily life. Their brains were small, yet their behavior was complex and ritualistic. To early humans, discovering remains deep underground would have felt supernatural. Who lives where light never reaches? Who walks where sound dies? Legends of underworld humanoids may be echoes of real encounters with a species that lived partly in darkness, and the mystery remains. Why bury the dead so deep? At number 8, the humanoid becomes enormous. Across Asia, myths speak of wild giants, massive hair-covered beings roaming dense forests. Long before Bigfoot entered popular culture, these stories existed, and science uncovered Gigantopithecus. This was the largest primate ever discovered, standing over 10 feet tall, massively built, living in thick forests. While it wasn't human, its size and posture would have felt humanoid enough to terrify anyone who saw it standing upright. Did humans encounter it? There's no direct proof, but timing and geography overlap just enough to raise the question. And once such a creature enters memory, it never truly leaves. The mystery remains. Did human eyes ever meet its own? At number 7, the myth refuses to die. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the forest humanoid seen across centuries and continents. Tall, hair-covered, bipedal, science dismisses it as folklore, misidentification, or hoax, but the consistency of descriptions is difficult to ignore. Some researchers suggest Bigfoot myths preserve memory of extinct apes like Gigantopithecus. Others point to misidentified bears, but myths don't persist for centuries without roots. Something keeps feeding the story. Is an undiscovered primate still possible? Maybe not, but memory is powerful, and the mystery endures. Why do sightings remain so consistent across time? At number 6, the cold replaces the forest. The Yeti, the abominable snowman, a massive humanoid said to roam high-altitude regions. Genetic testing of alleged evidence often points to bears, but not all questions are settled. High-altitude isolation creates legends. Shadows distort, tracks mislead, but stories from separate cultures echo the same form. Large, upright, human-like, and always just beyond reach. Why do sightings remain so similar? Why does the myth survive even when evidence fails? The mystery remains unresolved. At number 5, the humanoid becomes tragic. The Woodwoes, the wild man of the woods. Medieval Europe was filled with stories of hair-covered humans living beyond civilization. Some were feared, some were pitied, some were revered. These may not describe a separate species at all. They may describe feral humans, hermits, outcasts, or even archaic hominins surviving on the fringes. Humans are remarkably adaptable. Survival outside society is possible. How common were these individuals? How often did civilization encounter its own reflection in the wild? The mystery remains, and it is deeply human. At number 4, we go further back. Australopithecus walked upright millions of years ago, small, ape-like, yet undeniably human in posture. Early cultures that encountered fossil remains wouldn't have understood evolution. They would have seen half-human skeletons and filled the gaps with myth. Ape men, half-beings, creatures caught between worlds. The truth is quieter but no less strange, and the mystery remains. How human were they mentally? At number 3, fire enters the story. Homo erectus spread across continents. Tall, strong, human-like. They used tools, controlled fire, lived in groups. For long stretches of time, they overlapped with other hominins. Did they meet modern humans? The evidence is debated, but if they did, the encounter would have been unforgettable. Different humans, same fire, same night. The mystery remains. Did memory turn these meetings into legend? Before we reach the final 2, take a moment to subscribe if you haven't already. These stories aren't about monsters. They're about us. And what comes next reframes every myth you've ever heard. At number 2, the most universal humanoid myth of all, giants. Nearly every culture tells stories of enormous humans. Too big, too powerful, often divine, often destructive. Science suggests these legends may come from misinterpreted megafauna bones combined with encounters with unusually tall hominins. Size difference creates divinity. When something looks human but larger, it becomes godlike. The mystery remains. Did tall hominin species inspire these legends directly? And finally, at number 1, the most unsettling conclusion possible. Homo sapiens, us, fully human, fully capable of creation, empathy, violence, and destruction. No other humanoid creature has altered the planet the way we have. We hunt our own kind. We tell stories about monsters while becoming them. Ancient myths often say the gods looked like us. Maybe they weren't gods at all. Maybe they were observers, or survivors, or victims. And the final mystery remains unanswered. What myths will future species tell about us? Because the most dangerous humanoid creature in history was never imaginary.